I really admire my mother. She let me play with dolls. She really dared to let me be different. I really admire my mother. She let me play with dolls. She really dared to let me be different.
I love the Young Turks, WJ Jr. I have to confess to you that we have a preposterous show for you tonight. Preposterously good. So it'll be light and then serious, which will happen immediately in the first segment, as you'll see in a second. But then later in the program, a story you will absolutely love. You will fall in love with it. It involves dildos. It's a program in Texas called Cox, Not Glocks. It's as good as it gets. Okay. Are dildos more or less dangerous than weapons? We'll find out. ¿Quién es más macho, el dildo or el weapon? Okay. So, of course, the conservatives are out doing what they do. So, some of Fox News decided to one-up Ben Carson and blame the Jews en masse for not fighting back enough in the Holocaust. That sounds like a classy move. We'll get to that in a little bit. Speaking of Ben Carson, people are asking him to provide the long-form Popeyes receipt because there are more questions about whether he was actually robbed there. And then finally, this is all a mix of first hour and second hour stories today. Protesters, heart-wrenching protesters, and then heart-warming protesters. Oh, you just encountered a tease. Sorry. Okay. I'm in a goofy mood. And this is the first time in a long time that I've hosted the show by myself. It's been like 2 weeks in the first hour, isn't it? All right. I'm feeling kind of saucy today. Let's do it. Go. Engage. Okay. In Sweden, we had a serious issue pop up. There was a report out. Andreas Franzen said in the middle of a photo shoot, 2 cops showed up because they spotted 30 men, telling us they got a call from someone saying they drove past and saw about 30 terrorists waving an ISIS flag. Whoa! There's a Lord mercy! ISIS is in Sweden! I didn't know they could go that far. Well, it turns out, not really. Let me show you the pictures of the guys who were engaged in this photo shoot. They do seem rather scary looking because they have beards. And if you have beards and a black and white flag, obviously we've got concerns. But when you look a little closer, you go, oh, right, they are quite Swedish and then perhaps hipsters. And there's things to be afraid of hipsters, like that dude's hat right there. But I don't think terrorism is among them. So now we go to what happened afterwards. Well, Andreas Franzen explains again. He said, we had a good laugh with the cops who had responded to the call. And then together they made meatballs. Well, that didn't happen. Okay. Now, if instead of 30 Swedish dudes, hipsters with beards, they had found 30 Muslim men in the middle of Sweden with a black and white flag, would they have had good laughs with the cops? Now, I actually don't know because I don't live in Sweden, and there's an excellent chance that in Northern Europe the cops are far more understanding and less concerned about racial profiling. Here in the U.S., they would not have. If they showed up in the middle of Brooklyn and found out that 30 guys with beards were hipsters, they would have said, all right, go back to whatever you're working on at Vice. But if they had found 30 Muslims in the middle of Brooklyn, they would have had a longer conversation. Okay. Now, one more quote here from John Ekeblad, and he is a co-leader of this group. He said, each and every day you hear someone say you are a terrorist. So how's that profiling working out for us? They're like, oh no, it's a terrorist with a beard. Oh, it's okay. Now, to be fair, their flag does look a little scary, and it is fairly unacceptable. And in fact, so is the name of the group. Their name is the Bearded Villain. So I'm pretty sure actual villains don't put their name, the villain, in the title. Their flag is scary, though. There it is, black and white. By the way, these hipsters, they can't look at those glasses. That's what offends me. Anyway, I would profile them on the hair and glasses alone. They came up with this group in 2014. Come on, that flag's not a mistake. You want people's attention to go, so this is probably the best thing that's ever happened to them. Let's just keep it real on that front. And finally, what are the bearded villains? They claim to be a brotherhood of elite bearded men from all over the world. That does sound dangerous. Okay. By the way, guys, really, that's your... Again, Glass House here. I play fantasy football. But your hobby is to get together and talk about each other's beards? Okay, that's all I gotta say on that. Just picturing me at one of these meetings, like after I don't do the show for a while, I'll get a little bit of, stubble/beard. The idea of going, hey, how does your stubble look? How does your beard look? You're right, I remembered I don't give a fuck. Right, I'll see you guys later. Why would I care what another dude's beard looks like? Okay, anyway. Alright, now on to serious stories, as I told you. Okay. Jonathan Miller is a city councilman from the city of Prairie View, Texas. Now, if that name of the city sounds a little familiar to you guys, because it should be, that's the town that Sandra Bland was pulled over, and then later, of course, she died in a jail cell there. And this town does have a terrible history in terms of segregation. From time to time, cops there will come out and say, no, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Because oftentimes activists have complained, well before Sandra Bland was arrested, and you saw it in her arrest, that they'll pull over minorities based on trumped-up charges just to check things out, either make sure that not every black person is a criminal, or harass them, etc. Now, and you saw it in the video of Bland and her interaction with the police. And then the cops will come out every once in a while and say, no, outrageous, outrageous. We don't hate black people in this town. We're very welcoming to black people. But I've told you in the past that this town does have significant history of racism, including the fact that their cemeteries are still segregated. whites only, blacks only. Okay. In fact, as late as 2007, a judge ordered that an unidentified white woman, who was obviously dead, should be buried in the black cemetery because he didn't know who she was, and the black cemetery had some room. I don't know if she was homeless, but they said, okay, let's bury her there. I probably didn't think twice about it. There was an uproar in the community. Even if it's a homeless white woman, how dare you try to bury her with the black? Even their dead cannot commingle. That's in 2007, okay? So now, here we are again in that town, and like I said, Jonathan Miller, the guy you're actually looking at, is a city councilman. That's great. He's 26 years old. He's already active. He's participating in the process. That's terrific. But that didn't stop the cops from coming over to his house because they were concerned about what was happening there. Now, let me tell you what was happening. The men had gone outside, him and his friends, the men had gone outside to practice a step routine for a homecoming event at Prairie View A&M. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, that's dancing. So now, some of his friends were in a fraternity that's still going to school. He's 26 years old and he's a counselor, right? So, but they're dancing in their own lawn. Ooh, that does sound dangerous. At some point, they go to their cars to change their shoes. Even further danger. Okay, so then the cops show up, of course. Honestly, I say, of course, jokingly, but why in God's green earth did they show up? Okay, now what you're going to see is the video of what happened afterwards. Now, it is a little setup to this. CNN covered this story. I'm going to show you the video. But the point where they pick up the story, the cops have already arrived. They've already told them, oh, there was little girls and little guys in a car doing whatever. That's a quote from the cop. There's been drug activity, so we came. Okay? Now, at that point, the councilman has already explained to them, this is my house. I'm on my lawn. There are no little girls or little boys here, as you can see. There's no drug activity. And they keep telling him, move back, move back. He said, move back to where? This is my house. I'm on my lawn, right? Move back, okay? We're in the middle of an investigation. Investigation of what? You see what you see right in front of you. Okay, then this is what happens.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands
This was outside of Jonathan Miller's apartment last night. The 26-year-old is a council member with the city of Prairie View.
Put your hands behind your back.
In the video, officers tell Miller to put his arms behind his back. Miller does not move his arms.
Put your hands behind your back.
Miller's friends told us that they were hanging out with fraternity brothers at home in Prairie View. Several of them went outside by their cars to change their shoes when police pulled up and questioned others about what they were doing. Friends say Miller came out to check on them. Police say they told Miller to back away from the situation. Soon after, a friend recorded this tasing. In the recording, you can hear Miller tell police he lives there.
I live here, man.
He had said that earlier as well. In fact, the beginning of this was recorded on a body cam of the officers. The video you just saw was recorded by a bystander. And you could also hear in the video one of the officers saying after he's been tased, oh yeah, he's going to jail for resisting. And you just saw the video. I mean, the CNN anchor gratuitously put in that he didn't put his hands back immediately. You saw the video, right? He didn't put it back immediately. Not much of an effort there by the cops. Just stand back. And the guy's saying, okay, well, I guess they're not going to do it or something. Boom! Tase him. At first I had a mini heart attack because I thought they shot him, right? So luckily he survives the tasing, and he's not under house arrest. They arrested him in his own house. That's the illusion we're making here with the graphic. So now, what in the world did they arrest him for, right? Resisting arrest. But wait a minute, what was he arrested for in the first place that he was resisting? Right? And the cops know that they've gotten in trouble for that in the past, so they added a charge. So Miller was arrested and jailed on charges of interfering with police and resisting arrest. Those are the two biggest bullshit claims that cops constantly make throughout this country, okay? Now, does it mean that there are no legitimate cases of resisting arrest? Of course not. No, this guy gets caught in the middle of an armed robbery, he's trying to run away, he fights the cops, that's resisting arrest. And that happens all the time as well. Can you interfere with a police investigation? Sure, the cops are on the trail of somebody, and you help to deflect them in another direction. That's a serious crime, happens all the time. But in the context of arrests like this, you also see just as many times I hit the guy, the cop hits the guy, tases the guy, shoots the guy, etc. And immediately blurts out resisting arrest. And then somebody says, what were you arresting him for? He's like, God damn it, I wasn't arresting him. Why did I tase that guy in the first place? He was black, right? And he was dancing. We try to keep the blacks separate here. But look, at least there's some cops that are black, and they've also participated in this. That's great. Heartwarming, really. And so, I got it. Interfering with a police investigation. Were you investigating their dance? It doesn't matter. There's the original arrest. He was interfering with a police investigation. I told him to back up off his own lawn. He wouldn't back up off his own lawn. So then when I went to go handcuff him, he didn't move his hands in that first second. And then I tased him, and then I arrested him and jailed him for being a no-good criminal. He's a councilman in that city. Being legislating while black. I don't know. He wasn't legislating in that case, right? Dancing while black? Standing in your own lawn while black? Okay. You think they go to he's 26 years old. You think they go to a 62-year-old white guy in Prairie, Texas, who's also a councilman, and then he's on his own lawn, and they say, hey, sir, back up off your own lawn. First of all, he's going to go grab a gun. It's Texas, right? He's going to say, oh, this is my castle. You don't mess with my man on his own castle. Blah, blah, blah. He'll shoot the cops, okay? You think they're going to tase a 62-year-old white guy who's a councilman in that city? Okay, look, if you want to believe in Fantasyland, and that's your worldview, and you convince yourself of it, no, it had nothing to do with race. This city's perfectly white. I mean, don't murder even dead white people next to black people. I'm not using the N-word here, but I suspect some do, right? Right. Oh, don't put her next to the... Right? Okay, this city then has the temerity to tell us, no, there's no racial issue, I don't know what you're talking about. Dude, if he was one of those Clive and Bundy ranch guys, and the cops had come onto their property, how quickly would they have suited up? How many assault rifles would they have come out with, right? And the kid's got nothing on him. He's got his normal t-shirt on because they were dancing. That's what they were doing. Doesn't matter. The biggest crime in America, disrespecting a police officer. If you're black, if you're white, he can disrespect you back, and then he can pull his guns, and then you got to back down. I saw it happen. You all saw it happen. The whole country saw it happen. Clive and Bundy, they all pull guns on the cops, and the cops go back. Imagine black guys. Oh, you came on my lawn, officer? Hold on, let me go get my automatic weapons. How do you think that goes down? It doesn't matter. You're unarmed. He's lucky he didn't get shot. They only tased him and arrested him and jailed him. What else can you do? You're a councilman. You did everything right. You played by the book. What else can you do? No. Bow your head. If you don't bow your head, you're going to have trouble. It's not just in Texas. It's not just in the city. You know that it's all over the country. And if you think you don't know it, well, you're choosing not to see it. And what does that say about you? You go make that decision on your own. But the reality is blaringly obvious. But once again, of course, the commenters, the critics of our show will say, we made it all up. We're race baiting. That's true. I went down to Texas and I said, hey, can you go find a local councilman, and even though he's doing everything right, can you go tase him in his own lawn, and then arrest him and make up charges against him? Yeah, I did. Yeah, okay. Well, don't report on it. Really? Okay, shh, everybody. When cops do this, shh, don't report on it. Okay? Now, be a good journalist and say you see no evil. All right, let's go on to a story that's even more disheartening, believe it or not. Okay. We advocate for gun control on this program, reasonable gun control. A lot of people disagree with that. They get angry at us. They say, no, you don't understand, you libs. We can control our weaponry. And if there's ever a shooting, we'll have guns on us, we'll shoot the bad guy. That almost never happens, but that's what they claim. Uh-oh. Still got the leftovers from my cough. Okay. Now, one of the reasons we're upset about guns in this country is all the mass shootings. You see it over and over again, different campuses, movie theaters, churches, it goes on and on. Another reason we're concerned is just at your personal level. When you have a gun around, it's more likely that somebody, usually someone very innocent, gets shot by that gun. Okay, and then of course that's when the proponents of the Second Amendment and your rights to bear arms at all times will come to say, no, they're all incredibly reasonable. They're all wonderful practitioners of gun safety. All right, so I bring you these two stories from just the last couple of days. A San Antonio man thought that he heard noises around 4 a.m. on Saturday night. Look, you can understand. That'll spook you out. I mean, right? I mean, you got noises in your own house. It's 4 in the morning. You're worried. You're concerned. Then he thought he saw a flash of light, so he goes downstairs. And he said, quote, the man said he saw a light and someone standing at a distance. So he fired one blast from the shotgun. He's got a shotgun. It's Texas. He's got to protect himself, right? That's what gun advocates want. Turned out, of course, it was his wife. 48-year-old Deborah Kelly, now deceased. He shot and accidentally killed his wife. This is why, part of the reason why we tell you not to have guns around. Because you know who's likely up and about at 4 a.m. in your house? Your wife, or your kid, or your grandmother, someone in your family. The chance that it's an intruder is far less likely. But not only does everybody in the country now have guns, they're all been made afraid by all the fear-mongering. Be afraid, the intruders are coming, the others are coming, Sharia law is coming, the black people are coming, everybody's coming, the immigrants are coming, the Mexicans are coming, they're all rapists and criminals, everybody grab a gun, right? And you grab a gun, oh my God, I'm so scared, boom, oh shit, it's my wife. By all accounts, by the neighbors' accounts, they were a very happy couple, and the man is distraught beyond belief, and I feel horrible for him. This is part of the reason we tell you not to have a gun, because you're far more likely to do damage to someone you love than your heroic Chuck Norris fantasies that somebody's going to break into your house and you're going to tell them, make my day, and all that stupid stuff that they sell you so that you can buy more weapons. Now, to be fair, Texas law permits homeowners to shoot intruders attempting to break into their home. They are not obligated to retreat from a situation where deadly force can be legally justified. Okay, good for you. This is a law that gun manufacturers basically pushed for, and gun owners thought would protect them. I don't have to retreat. But in the old law that was reasonable and throughout the country, you did have to retreat. Why? So you don't shoot your wife. So you don't shoot your kid. So you don't shoot your husband. You retreat so you find out what the hell's going on. You find out who it is before you do the shooting. No, I don't have to retreat. No, that's true, you don't. But you should. You should find out who it is before you shoot and kill them. Okay, so that's a horrible story. Now, don't think it's an aberration. It happens literally every single day in America. Here's another story from Columbus, Ohio, another part of the country. Andrea Ellis cut her arm on some glass. And she started bleeding everywhere. Everybody in the family is concerned. Her sister calls 911. Now, she's very clear. She says, quote, I need a paramedic. Okay? Not a cop. I need a paramedic. She didn't say there was an intruder. She didn't say there was danger. She didn't say there was a pack of dogs that had attacked. That's relevant in the story in a second. Okay? Her sister's bleeding. She needs a paramedic. So there's a cop in the area. He responds. And as the cop is coming into the house, a boxer terrier mix named Patches charges at the officer. Now, those type of dogs usually weigh under 25 pounds. They're very small dogs. He charges at the officer. The officer shoots at the dog, the family dog. Good news, doesn't hit him. Bad news, it's their 4-year-old daughter instead. Don't pull the gun. Don't pull the gun. I know you got a gun. I know you can't wait to use it. First of all, they asked for a paramedic. They asked you to come help their family. They didn't ask you to shoot their dog. There was no intruder. There was no wild dogs in the area. No, but the cops can't take any chances with their lives or their well-beings. Oh my God, what if he snipped at me? What if he snipped at me, that terrier? They certainly didn't ask you to shoot their 4-year-old. Andrea Ellis said that the daughter asked her several times, Mommy, am I going to die? Now, thank God she didn't. I'm incredibly relieved to report that she was shot in the leg, a broken bone, a giant scar on her leg now, but she survived. Oh, God, if she hadn't survived. Okay. This is the problem with guns. They do kill people. They do shoot people. That's what they're designed to do. I know everybody who has a gun thinks they're the most responsible gun owner in the world, yet every single day all across America there are stories just like this. You know why? Because guns are dangerous. And their whole point is to shoot and kill things, including people. Less guns, less gun violence. That is a fact. It holds in states in America. It holds in countries overall. We've shown you those over and over and over again. But again, some people like to live in an alternate reality where the more deadly weapons we have around, the safer we are. That is just not the reality. These are two horrible stories, but don't worry, wait a couple of days. There'll be many more of those horrible stories from people getting shot and dying from guns that never had to be there or never had to be pulled in the first place. Young Turks.
Yeah. It was terrible. What are you Nazi? What are you? Is that a thing? I was at home somewhere. Sam came. It's a fact. I don't think this is a fact.
Turks. Time to read some tweets for you guys. Hashtag TYT Live is how you communicate to us throughout the show. Smooth writes in, I have friends in Iraq who weren't fans of Cenk. Showed them the culture debate, and they love him now. Stood up for them. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know why they weren't fans in the first place. So I'm glad they checked themselves. Okay. No, I'm glad you guys did that. Now, we told you Politicon was going to be an event, and it was an event. Okay, that was Friday and Saturday. We had a live show. We had the Jimmy Dore show. We had a Mad as Hell screening. Our band meet and greet was right next to Michelle Bachman's. We, of course, dwarfed her. Not a big deal. But then the debate between me and Ann Coulter, or interview, or whatever you want to call it, epic. Standing room only. Raucous crowd. People waiting outside. Over 1,000 people in the room. So luckily we have tape of it. The audio's not great, but you can also hear you can hear it, and there's the captions available too. So check that out on our YouTube page, youtube.com/TYT. youtube.com/TYT. Okay, now to the stories of today. Annette writes in, to be fair, hipsters are terrorists. Ben Cosette writes in, the house arrest story, another guy being brought in on a humble. Unfortunately true. How dare you not listen to me in exactly the way I told you. I don't care if I'm here for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons. I don't care that there's no crime. I don't care that it's your house. If you're black, you're young, or you're powerless in any way, right? Poor whites, they'll do that to you in a second. Don't get me wrong. You'll be brought in on a humble if you don't do the right thing. And then Big Doc, who's African American, says, I tell all my friends, fuck your ego. It is what it is. They have the right to kill you. And likely they will get away with it. I'm going to do a final judgment on that today. That's also going to be on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page on the Tamir Rice investigation. It makes me super, super mad. All right, check out the final judgment for that. And Mother Bones finally writes in, and in South Carolina today, a 2-year-old shot her grandmother in the back while playing with a loaded gun. Grandma's dead. Good job, parents. Happens every single day, many, many times a day, unfortunately. Sorry, fighting through the cough. For those of you who don't remember, I had my house broken into. Now, I don't know, almost 2 years ago, I think. And people kept asking me, "Ooh, were you scared you didn't have a gun?" No, I'd have been 10 times more scared if I did have a gun. Because then the cops showed up. They've got guns. I've got a gun. God knows who's going to shoot. I got my kids in the house. Are you nuts? Okay. Anyway. So, now let's go on politics. Let's do a little bit of Benghazi. Okay. Hold. Okay. Now, the Republicans have been saying for a long time that, hey, Benghazi investigation, all that, because Benghazi, we deeply care about the poor Americans who were killed there, has nothing to do with politics. Now, Kevin McCarthy, who was in line to be Speaker of the House and then seriously quit, accidentally slipped up the other day and said, yeah, I mean, obviously, we drove Hillary Clinton's poll numbers down with the Benghazi investigation. Oops. So your whole point was to drive down Hillary Clinton's poll numbers and investigate her, having nothing to do with, hey, the poor Americans that died there. So now that's being buttressed by not just someone who accidentally let it slip and admit the truth, not just by the Democrats who've been saying that all along, but a Republican who was on the staff. His name is Bradley Podliska. He identifies himself as a very conservative Republican. He was on the committee. He wanted to do the investigation and found out, oops, no, it's all about politics. Since then, you're not going to be surprised to find out, relieved of duty. But here's what he said on CNN.
I'm scared. I'm going up against powerful people in Washington. I was fired for trying to conduct an objective, nonpartisan, thorough investigation. This has become a partisan investigation. I do not know the reason for the hyper-focus on Hillary Clinton.
Podliska is a conservative Republican who even once interned for the Conservative Media Research Center.
I would just like to state that I am going to vote for the Republican nominee in 2016. I do not support Hillary Clinton for president.
Do you think that the results of the committee, based on what you saw, will be fair, comprehensive, thorough, professional, honest?
No, it's not possible. The victims' families are not going to get the truth. And that's the most unfortunate thing about this. And I know this because the 9 months of research I had done is now lost. I have no idea where it is.
Okay, that's pretty damning. Craig Gowdy, who was the chairman of that committee, is furious. How dare you question my honor? I'm a politician. Okay, good one. So media reports the committee's chairman claims the former employee was actually reprimanded for focusing too heavily on Clinton and for mishandling classified information. Yeah. He was like, oh, please let me investigate Clinton. And Trey Gatto was like, no, don't do that. I will fire you if you investigate Hillary Clinton too much. Who do you believe? Really? You think the guy then turned around and said, oh, they made it political because I was investigating Clinton too much? Come on! It's so obvious what happened. Okay, now my second favorite thing is actually a sad state of affairs in Washington. They say they fired him for mishandling classified information. That was the second part of it, right? And because he was too tough on Hillary Clinton. Mishandling classified information is now the go-to move. You know, for cops, it's resisting arrest and interfering with a police investigation. For politicians, if they get caught doing something wrong and there's a whistleblower, he mishandled classified information. Hurry up, find some classified information on some computer somewhere that he shouldn't have had it on. Oh, that was a work computer, but he was having lunch while looking at that classified information. Mishandled it, right? Dangerous, maybe turning over evidence to the enemy, mishandling classified information. The biggest bogus charge there is in Washington. Okay, now Trey Gowdy goes further and personally says, because I do not know him and cannot recall ever speaking to him, I can say for certain he was never instructed by me to focus on Clinton, nor would he be a credible person to speak on my behalf. Then he follows up and says that his work was, quote, deficient. Now, wait a minute. If you never saw the guy, you never had any interactions with him, how do you know his work was deficient? Okay. I don't know anything about the guy, and I didn't tell him anything, but if I did, I knew how deficient he was. Okay, alright. Interesting. He goes on to say, this committee always has been and will be focused on the 4 brave Americans we lost in Benghazi and providing the final definitive accounting of the Benghazi terrorist attacks for the American people. By the way, that accounting has been now laid out over 12 times. We know exactly what happened in Benghazi. And by the way, according to even the Republican admissions and investigations, the administration didn't do anything wrong. They didn't say, hey, no, don't hold back. Don't help those guys. Oh, we knew the terrorists were... They didn't do any of that stuff. They don't have that. All they're doing is spending all their time on Hillary Clinton's emails in her private server versus her public server. Okay, so the Democrats then turn around and say, okay, look, Democrats on the committee pledged to release the interview transcripts of various witness testimonies, including that of Clinton's former chief of staff, Cheryl Mills. So the Democrats are saying, hey, if you guys are so concerned about the truth, then let's reveal what the witnesses said. Now, here's the Republican reaction. Republicans denounced the move as an improper release of information that could compromise the integrity of the investigation, and said they plan to disclose new emails showing Clinton's reliance on a former confidant with business interests in Libya. Wait, I thought you guys were only investigating the 4 deaths. So instead, what you're saying is, don't improperly release things that are true. We will turn around and improperly release more things about Hillary Clinton. But what happened to the 4 people dead and all that stuff? Death. You want to see a release? We'll release more stuff on Clinton. And this is not about Politico or about Clinton at all. Oops. Of course it's about Clinton! Of course it is! You'd have to be a brain-dead mainstream media journalist to go, Republicans say it's not about Clinton, Democrats say it is. I can't tell the difference. Color me ignorant again. The rest of the country already knew it was a political witch hunt on Hillary Clinton. Okay. Now, we go to even more despicable Republicans. That brings us, of course, to Fox News. Keith Abloh is a medical correspondent for Fox News. God help the people he actually treats, if he treats anyone at all. He's a psychiatrist, so he plays with their minds. Oh my God. Please get him away from patients. But Fox News says, no, it's okay. He's on the medical A team. I fear to see what's on their B team, partly because of an op-ed that he's got out now. I mean, he's said many, many crazy things in the past, of which we've reported to you before. But this time, he decided to take up the issue of the Holocaust. Now, God help us all. Now, he wanted to defend Ben Carson. Ben Carson said if they had more guns, the Jews could have fought back and they could have, beaten the Nazis. It's a preposterous claim. First of all, as we've explained earlier on the show, in fact, there was very tight gun regulation that the Nazis loosened. They were actually for gun rights, the Nazis were. And they didn't want the Jews to have the guns, of course, because they were about to kill them all. But would the guns have made any difference? Given that the Nazis took over half of Europe in about 3 days and destroyed every army in their path until an enormous war finally with the Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union combined barely beat them, I don't think a couple of guns would have done the trick. In fact, even Keith Abloh admits in his op-ed, well, Carson might not have been right about that. A couple more guns might not have made a difference. Are you not merciful? But then he goes on to gratuitously insult the victims of the Holocaust anyway. So he says, the mindset that Jews surrendered with their guns is far more important than the hardware they turned over. They surrendered the demonstrated intention at all costs to resist being deprived of liberty. Now, we're going to needlessly break this down. At the moment that the Nazi authorities show up, I know Keith Abloh thinks he's a super tough guy. He'd have mowed them all down, and he'd have been a hero, and he'd have single-handedly defeated the entire Nazi party in Germany, of course. More likely, not only would he have surrendered, but he might have been like, oh, hey, good thing you guys are here. I was looking forward to seeing you guys. But let's leave aside that speculation. At the time that a lot of the Jews were being rounded up, they didn't know they were going to be sent to camps and killed, right? So there's a whole set of people show up with an army, right? With the scariest army in the history of the world, the Nazis show up at their doorstep. And Abloh says, oh, they should have known. They should have known. They should have immediately started firing on them and been as heroic as I would have been. Oh my God, it's hard to find anything more offensive. All right, and he's not anywhere near done. He says, if Jews in Germany had more actively resisted the Nazi party or the Nazi regime and had diagnosed it as a malignant and deadly cancer from the start, there would indeed have been a chance for the people of that country and the world to be moved to action by their bold refusal to be enslaved. He's literally blaming the victims of the Holocaust. You should have resisted more. You should have taken bold action. And if you had taken bold action, maybe your couple of guns wouldn't have made a difference. But it would have emboldened the rest of the world to fight against the Nazis. What are you talking about? First of all, a lot of Jews did resist. And in the Warsaw ghettos, when they resisted and shot about 50 Nazis, that was great. And then the Nazis turned around and murdered 13,000 Jews on the spot. And did that mobilize the rest of the world? No. When Jews went to all the different parts of the world, including the United States, they were all told, no, we're not going to take you in. Not in every country, but in a lot of countries. Those countries were not emboldened because the Jews fought back. And they were not emboldened because the Jews didn't fight back. They didn't want the Jews. Okay? So that is horrific. That thing happened. And then you want to say, oh, well, it's their fault. If they'd fought back more, then we'd opened our doors to them, and then the Nazis would have been scared, and then this would have happened, and that would have happened. I mean, if you don't fight back against the Nazis, and then you get a Holocaust. That's what happened. Right? And that's what he's saying here, one more. Now, at this point, the Anti-Defamation League already said about Ben Carson, don't do that, don't blame the victims. That's horrific, please. Don't attack the people who died in the Holocaust. But get a load of this. Abloh thinks that Ben Carson knows better than the head of the Anti-Defamation League about the Holocaust. So he says, to me, the National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, seems to have forgotten these iconic words. Never again. Thank God that men like Ben Carson remind us of that. Yeah, the head of the Anti-Defamation League needed Ben Carson to remind him about the horrors of the Holocaust. There is no bottom to this barrel. Fox News is a bottomless barrel. Okay. One last quick story for you in this segment. Now, you know that there's a Black Lives Matter movement across the country. The reason they call it Black Lives Matter is because they're worried that society at large, and cops in specific, treat Black lives as if they don't matter. If you're unarmed, they shoot you anyway, and they're really concerned that their lives are not being taken seriously, like they're human beings. Now, this is a civil rights movement we've been through before in a different way. Back during the 1960s, they used to have those signs, the placards that they would bring to protest saying, I am a man. saying, I mean, I'm a human being just like you. Please treat my life as if it's the life of your brother, your sister, your son, or your father, right? It's a fair request. Now, of course, derided by Fox News as a hate group because they say, hey, can you please not kill me, right? Now, there's a new movement, apparently. 300 billboards have gone up across the country saying Blue Lives Matter. Now, look, people in the Black Lives Matter community, some of them, are offended by this, and I'm not offended by it, but I find it quizzical. I guess it's because they don't understand anything, right? Does anyone really think that there was a movement in this country like, oh, the cops, their lives don't matter at all. Go ahead. They're unarmed, armed, it doesn't matter, threat, not a threat, just shoot them. But nobody thinks that. Nobody said that. That's never happened. Were cops too derided by the establishment in this country? Are you kidding me? Cops are heroic, heroes are the men in blue, the finest, they're the greatest. That's what society says, that's what the establishment says. You think their lives needed to be pointed out that their lives matter? There's a megaphone blaring how much their lives matter every single day. The minute they shoot and kill someone, people come out and go, oh my God, they were under threat. It could have been a threat. I mean, they weren't under threat, but it could have been a threat because blue lives matter. We already know blue lives matter, and that's a good thing. I'm not arguing against it. It's obvious. We already know the cops' lives matter. The issue was it appeared that black lives didn't matter to cops and to a lot of the people in the establishment. That was the issue. But these guys make it seem like, oh, it's what, black people or society at large who've been oppressing cops in this country for time immemorial. And they were just treating them as if they didn't matter at all. Now those poor cops are fighting back a little bit against that oppression. They're the ones with the guns. They're the ones that have the law on their side. They're the ones, the force of the law, unfortunately, although oftentimes not in accordance with the law. They're the ones that if they kill people, even if they're unarmed, everybody rushes to their defense and investigation after investigation says, oh, no, they had to kill him. They had to kill him. They're cleared constantly. They have all the power on their side. Yes, of course we want them to be healthy and happy and all that fine stuff, but they already were. The problem was black lives didn't matter. That's why you needed a movement. You don't need this movement. But isn't it amazing? They have all the money. Black Lives Matter can't afford 300 billboards. They don't have the money for that, right? The idiots on the right who say, oh, funded by George Soros. Then where are all their billboards? Right? But you tweak the pride of the police even a little bit. 300 billboards across the country. All lives matter. Bow your head. Yeah. We already know. We got it. Stop hitting us over the head with
just a quick thought about it. And one of the things when they said the Black Lives Matter movement inspires people to commit violence against police officers, if that's the case, then if you trigger your Blue Lives Matter movement with your police officers whose lives must matter, then that means you're triggering or inspiring them to shoot more of what enemy? So if your thought process is that this movement, the original one, is killing more cops, what do you think your movement will do? But kill more citizens. That doesn't come together. It only works one way. It doesn't work both ways.
No.
Your inspiration doesn't work that way, though.
Yeah. If you say Black Lives Matter, that means kill all police officers. If you say Blue Lives Matter, it says treat everybody with respect. Does that make sense? No, but it doesn't have to. The power doesn't have to make sense. Okay, we'll be right back. I have two more important stories for you guys. Go.
And
All right, back on the Young Turks. Now, at Wolfpack, we are trying to get money out of politics, and we want an amendment to do that, a constitutional amendment. Every generation of Americans has amended the Constitution, except us, so let's get to it. And we did. Now, it's not an easy fight, and so last year in 2014, in the state of Connecticut, for example, we had no one to introduce our resolution. This is when other groups get depressed, and they go, oh no, there's nobody to do it, and they go home. That's not what we do, so we mounted up. And we got some volunteers in Connecticut who did a wonderful job, and we got a resolution introduced this year in Connecticut. Well, it's very hard to pass it in the first year, but in the House we did, 77 to 64. It's amazing what happens when you try. Now, there were American heroes here. There were legislators in Connecticut who actually made this happen. We can try all we want, but legislators at the end of the day have to actually vote for it in each state. So Ed Jutila in District 37 was our main sponsor. He was great. I'm going to show you a great speech he had in just a little bit. And then you had Matt Lesser in District 100. Majority Leader Representative Joe Arosimowicz was just fantastic. He was really terrific in getting it introduced and pushing it, because there's a ton of bills, and that wound up being an issue in the Senate that I'll tell you about in a second. But one more, Speaker of the House, Brendan Sharkey from District 88, was fantastic. I tell you all those names because there's all these bills that they need to consider, hundreds of bills, and you have to prioritize. And these guys said, hey, listen, is there anything more important than getting our democracy back, to have free and fair elections? If we don't have free and fair elections on the national level, then what are we wasting our time for? You know, we can fight 100 different fights at the same time, but we're not getting anywhere at the national level because they're not listening to anyone. All they're doing is listening to their donors, and those congressmen and at the state level are absolutely right. And what did I tell you? I've told you 1,000 times. Democracy does still live, but at the state level. You know, one guy came in among all of our volunteers, had maybe a little bit more effect, and he didn't have to, and this was back when he wasn't running for president or anything along those lines. And he does this all the time in states. He goes and talks to legislators and says, hey, here's a situation in terms of a convention, what the upsides are, what the downsides are, why you need the amendment, why there's a pressing issue. His name is Larry Lessin. He happens to be running for president now, but he does this on a regular basis. That's why he's the godfather of the movement, because he actually cares. He desperately wants to get money out of politics, whether it's through helping other organizations like Wolfpack, and he helps many other progressive organizations try to get money out of politics in 18 different ways. Now, I want to go to the actual legislators in Connecticut, though, because I thought their words were powerful. Now, a lot of people sit at home depressed. 96% of Americans think that, yes, money has a corrupting influence on politics, but 91% think there's nothing you can do about it. I told you, just last year, we had no organization in Connecticut at all. We had no prayer, and of course, every time we go into a state, people say it's hopeless, you have no chance, right? And yet, it turns out legislators can be convinced, and listen to Representative Ed Utillo making a great speech on the floor of the House in Connecticut.
Mr. Speaker, we had substantial testimony in support of this resolution during the public hearing and no opposition to it. So why do we need to take this extraordinary action? Well, no less than the need to reclaim our representative democracy and restore free and fair elections. This is our way to speak with a loud voice for campaign finance reform at the federal level. There's too much at stake to sit idly by. We must do everything in our power to restore our representative democracy in America. Mr. Speaker, this is not a Democratic or a Republican issue, liberal or conservative. It's an American issue. The Constitution has been amended 27 times and at least once by each generation of Americans. Our time has arrived. Let's take action now. Get back to an election process that's fair and that works for all Americans, not just for the wealthy and powerful.
Now, a lot of times, more established groups in Washington look at Wolfpack and go, you young kids, you'll never make any difference. Now, there is a legislator who's been at it for quite some time, and he says, I am your cavalry. I can vote on this, and at the state level, we can call for a convention, so you don't need Washington at all. They don't want to get money out of politics? We'll make him do it, okay? We'll go to a convention, we'll get that amendment whether Washington likes it or not. You think you can't make a difference? Look at that legislator, okay? Yes, there are strong and brave people throughout the country who will vote our way, but we got to make our case. I'm going to give you one more. Representative Jonathan Steinberg in Connecticut.
Drowning out less well-financed voices. That's not, to my mind, free speech. It sounds like paid speech to me. So I'm very open-minded to what we're trying to accomplish here. I feel very frustrated that the Supreme Court decision of Citizens United, which I would differ from some of the others who have spoken today, I find that to be an egregious decision which tortured legal precedent in the history of the Supreme Court. I think they had to turn themselves into pretzels to justify what they've done here. So I'm very open-minded to anything that would give us the prospect of taking back our country and getting money out of politics in this fashion. To my mind, even when you make a reasonable argument and you take it to the extreme, it becomes the definition of farce. And that's what I think our electoral politics have become here.
See, it's not just us. They agree with us. But we got to work hard to make it happen. The reason I gave you that speech is because Representative Steinberg made a great little turn of phrase there that I love that I'll borrow going forward. And he said, I don't call this free speech, I call this paid speech. That's exactly what it is. It's not free speech where the Koch brothers or the unions or anyone pours in billions of dollars into campaigns. It's paid speech. That's exactly what it is. So, look, here are the great volunteers in Connecticut that got it this far. Co-leaders Frederick Breslow and K.J. Johnson. These are people who took time out of their lives to go fight for this issue. And look at the results they got. Mike Donnelly, then Suzanne P., Kristen P., Matthew P., Ben Martin, Mike Rhino, and Eben Stewart. So these guys, in my mind, are all American heroes. And now, you say, hey, good, we got Connecticut on the board. No, we don't. We passed the House, but in the Senate, we ran out of time. So this is politics, and this is normal, okay? This doesn't happen overnight. And if you get depressed by that because, oh, golly gee, the Senate in Connecticut had too many priorities, you pack up, you go home, you'll never get anything done, okay? Our guys are warriors. We never give up, okay? They told us to give up in the beginning. We didn't. We got the House. You think we're not going to get the Senate next year? Come join us. Be part of a winning team. You got all these guys fighting in Connecticut. Fight along with them. You can win in Connecticut, and you can put Connecticut on the board next year. Okay, so if you have a setback, what do? You fight harder, okay? Look at all that we've already accomplished. We're going to accomplish so much more, but we've got to stay together. It doesn't take millions of people. It just takes a dedicated group of guys and girls who do wonderful work together to be able to do it. Be part of that winning team. When they won in the House, you know how good it felt after all the doubters and the naysayers and the haters were like, oh, you're just 5-6 people, you think you get this best? Washington, what is this? How did you win that vote in the House? Well, we're going to go win it in the Senate. So wolf-pack.com. Come and be part of real change. If Washington doesn't want to change, there's a great answer for that. We make them change. We're done with politely asking, okay? And there are these wonderful American heroes that are state legislators who are ready to fight with us. Go ask them to join our fight. Ask them to be the cavalry. wolf-pack.com. Come and feel the power. Young Turks. Back on the Young Turks, Jake Granick experience. Oh, I think I keep forgetting to tell you guys. We're doing debate coverage tomorrow. Okay, and that's the first Democratic debate. Bernie's going to be there. Everybody's going to feel the burn. We'll find out. We'll find out if we feel the burn. So we're going to do the normal live show, obviously, tomorrow, Tuesday, right? And then afterwards, stay with us. We're going to keep on rolling, okay, in one way or another. And then the debate starts around 8:30 Eastern, okay? Boom, we're there before the debate. Remember, you're rolling with us. You're rolling, right? We're going to give you pre-debate coverage, tell you the latest poll numbers, what you can expect, yada, yada. And then we watch the debate together, a few comments here during the breaks, and then tweets from you guys, from us, we read, yada, yada. Afterwards, biggest winner of the debate, biggest loser of the debate, fail of the debate, etc., okay? So on the Democratic side now this time should be interesting. Mm-hmm. So the Republican side is mainly a circus. On the Democratic side, there's a decision to be made.
Is there? I mean, about it being a circus? I don't think it's a circus, but is there?
No, it's a decision about the candidates. Like people actually listening to see who they might vote for.
Right. Interesting, yeah.
Okay, so that's all at tytnetwork.com. Okay. Now, a quick reading of some tweets here for you guys from #TYT Live. Bernie Brigade writes, let's do a little Benghazi. Sounds like what Republicans say when they want to do some drugs. That's funny. Big Doc corrects me. He says, I'm actually Jamaican, but I expect that kind of political correctness from a lib group like Live TYT. He says, I had to say it in the O'Reilly voice. I didn't quite deliver on that, but LOL. Okay. I must have said he was African American. Jamaicans are not African Americans. They're just Jamaican Americans.
Yeah.
Okay, or just Jamaicans.
I remember a time in America where if you referred to someone as black, like it was considered bad. Like you shouldn't refer to people as black. And then I realized that referring to people as African American is not a good idea because they're not necessarily African.
I know that. You know why? Because I was Mr. Jamaican.
Right, of course.
And Big Doc, what are you doing questioning your leader? Okay. Not because of the Young Turks, but because I was Mr. Jamaican. Okay, Jim Granger says, saw half of agriculture debate. Did anyone offer a shovel to dig her out of the atomic bomb-sized hole she put herself in? Good question. We'll see. I wonder if there's going to be any fallout. Because I think the most interesting part of the debate was I got her to say, no, it's not hyperbole. In the beginning, she said it was. Then she switched to, no, it's not hyperbole. Mm-hmm. And then I said, so are you joking? Can you make a joke for us? Funny woman. Okay, anyway, and then she seemed like she was saying it was for selling things. I said, okay, then it's marketing. So no, it's not marketing. Then she went on to say, yeah, I would indiscriminately kill people in the Middle East with a nuclear bomb. I would take away women's right to vote. And that all non-Europeans come from peasant culture.
She doesn't, I don't think she believes any of the stupid stuff she says. And if she does believe the stupid stuff she says, then she shouldn't be in the middle of a debate. If she doesn't think women should have the right to vote, then shut up and stop sharing your political opinions.
Yeah, and so, but will it have fallout to the question here, right? Will CPAC continue to invite her? Will Republicans continue to be happy to be seen with her? Trump is has heard some of his speeches, etc. But here's a woman who says all these things and says, no, she absolutely means it.
Yeah.
She would kill innocent civilians indiscriminately, etc. Okay, you want to have her by your side? The indiscriminate killing, the Republicans probably still fine with.
Right.
But they probably, I'm not sure they want to alienate every woman in the country. She said the suffragette movement was a mistake.
She's an idiot. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, have at it, Hoss. Republicans, go nuts. And have her at each of your events and see how that turns out. Okay. Dave's Gone Mad says, what does he say? It may be a witch hunt, referring to the Benghazi hearings, but looking at Clinton's poll numbers, it has worked. And that's the thing that's super frustrating. You're absolutely right. And the mainstream media plays along with it, and next thing you know, it has hurt her a lot. The email investigations, etc. Now, again, I'm not her biggest fan, but this isn't the right way to go about it. Johnny Farmfield did some sort of Photoshop of me with a beard, because I was talking about the bearded hipsters. He said, about beards, as liberal as TYT Live viewers are, I think it would be hard for Cheng to pull off this look. And then
there's no way. Yeah, there's no way. I'm looking at that. It's funny, because I caught a glimpse of that prior to you explaining what it is, and I couldn't tell it was you. And I'm like, why is someone sending you a picture of a terrorist?
Okay, here. No, we can't zoom in. But you can kind of see it from there. Okay, so Johnny, that's very clever, and I think you make a powerful point. It would be tougher to do the show that way, because there would be real discrimination. And looking at the picture, I might discriminate against that version of me, right?
Yeah.
To the point of Anna's joke. Mm-hmm. And that tells you, oh, there it is. Thanks, guys. Perfect. And that tells you a sad state of affairs in our world, right? If I'm doing a show like that, people are going to perceive me completely differently, right? Including me, right? And isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Depending on your facial hair, there's a certain perception of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a perception of you if you have the wrong tattoos in the wrong place. There's a perception of you if you have the wrong hair color or hairstyle, or if you're wearing the wrong outfits. People get discriminated against for lots of different reasons. I want to make a quick point about what we just showed you. You know that you have a lot of engagement with your viewers when you can recognize who they are based on their Twitter picture. So No More Donations favorited that. Yeah. And I'm like, let's no more donations. I know who that is.
That's awesome. And the other fun fact about this is that people will take Johnny's picture, which he meant in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And I'm predicting it right now, they will use it against me. Like my critics will, I guarantee you, take that Photoshop picture and pretend it's real and send it around.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, Audrey Horn says, "Fuck yeah, I've never been prouder than to be from Connecticut." #Wolfpack. Audrey, go join them. Wolf-pack.com. I'm not just saying that to Audrey. If you're in Connecticut, go be part of that winning team. Be part of the Warriors that's going to get Connecticut on the board next year. Okay.
Oh, what? Okay. Let's do stories.
You know what? Next Ann Coulter debate, I might show up in that beard just to intimidate her. Okay, there won't be any next Ann Coulter debate. All right, next.
All right. More and more people are investigating Ben Carson's claims that decades ago he was approached by a gunman while he was at a Popeyes organization, and that he directed the potential shooter to the cashier because, of course, the cashier is who the shooter really wanted. Well, when we reported that story, I made the argument that this isn't necessarily true and that he could be lying. If you don't remember, take a look at the video. But, by the way, what he's saying there is so unrealistic, because if someone, first of all, let me just get this out of the way. I think he's lying about the story.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about it.
I think that he's completely making this up. I wouldn't be surprised if someone investigated it and found that he was lying. And you know how presidential elections work. Someone will investigate it, and I guarantee they're going to find that he's lying.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think of that. I did think of it. Yeah, sure.
Well, guess what? Told you, because it turns out that new evidence indicates that he is likely lying. Now, this isn't hardcore evidence, but I'll give you the information that we have, and you can judge for yourself.
And just so here's what we mean by hardcore evidence. There's no camera footage of a robbery that didn't happen.
Right.
Right? So we can't disprove that. But all the circumstantial evidence leads to a fairly clear conclusion.
Yes. So Tommy Christopher from Mediaite looked into this a little bit, and even though he finds it objectionable that there are people who are even looking into this in the first place, he says that Ben Carson should produce his long-form Popeyes receipt, which is hilarious.
The whole article was hilarious.
It was. Now, he says there's also an emerging Ben Carson Popeyes truther movement suggesting that he made the whole thing up. Apparently,
That's who you are, Anna. You're a truther.
I guess
You're a
I am.
Popeye's truther.
I guess I am. Now, the Baltimore Police Department looked into this to see if they could find a police report, because usually when there's an armed robber at a Popeyes organization, they will file some sort of police report. And according to the Baltimore Police Chief, we searched for it, and based on the general statement, we have no report. Here's another thing to take into consideration. At the time that this allegedly happened, Ben Carson was a vegetarian. So it's a little interesting that he decided to go to a Popeyes. I mean, they have mashed potatoes. So
Wonderful red beans and rice.
Right.
And apparently they didn't miss Ben Carson. And also biscuits, world's greatest biscuits. If I was a vegetarian, also I'd go to Popeyes, as Ben Carson calls it, but a little less likely. It makes the story a little questionable.
Yeah.
Because he's deeply religious, Seventh-day Adventist, not supposed to eat meat. I know, because you're deeply religious, you wouldn't go and have chicken at a Popeyes, right?
I love the story. Mostly because I get to do the fortune teller thing that you do.
Okay, by the way, so Armstrong Williams is his advisor on the campaign, and he embellished the story further. He's like, he said people were panicking, but Ben Carson calmed everybody down. Ben Carson didn't even say that, just making further stuff up. And he was very confident in talking the guy through, and the guy listened to him. But no, he told the guy, even in Ben Carson's version of the story, go rob someone else.
Yeah.
And even in Ben Carson's version of the story, and this is why I'm mad at myself that I didn't pick it up and you did, right? He says, the guy came to me first, and then I told him, no, you want the guy behind the cash register. Really? Okay, so now you're telling me a robber comes in and he's like, he can't tell who's behind the cash register?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the most damning part of all of this, right? Because an armed robber comes in to steal the money, right? He's going to go straight for the cashier. Why would he go straight for someone waiting in line?
Right, and if he did go to the guy waiting in line, he did it to get his wallet. It wasn't like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
Who has all the money for this organization?
It's not.
Right.
He's
So
lying.
that's the crazy part of the story. Then he says, the guy stuck the gun in my ribs, but I wasn't scared at all because I knew his purpose there was to rob the place. Yeah, but if a strung-out dude is robbing a place, yeah, his purpose could be to rob Popeyes, as you call it, but he could also rob you, or he can just shoot you because he's got a gun.
Right.
But Ben Carson is way too calm for that. He's like, let me direct you to the right place. Please shoot that guy and get his money instead.
The incredible thing is, he told that story to make a point about gun control and how it's unnecessary, right? And even if that story was 100% true, it hurts him more than helps him, because he redirected a shooter to a cashier.
Yeah.
Don't mess with me, mess with the cashier. Like, come on.
He thinks that helps him. He's crazy, man. And by the way, Armstrong Williams' involvement in the campaign, his deep involvement, tells you exactly what it's about. Armstrong Williams' job for the Republicans is to find the 6 African Americans in the country who are still Republican, and then build them up through the media, like, it's Dr. Ben Carson! He's a Republican African American! Right? And they do, this little show, and then the whole point is not for Ben Carson to win. It's so the Republicans say, see, we have black people on our side, and they also say the problem is black people.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway. All right, well, we wanted you guys to chime in on this, and an overwhelming majority of you agree that this story is probably false. We asked, Ben Carson recently told a story that he was held up at gunpoint at a Popeyes. Do you believe him? 90% of you do not believe him. 10% of you do. I can't believe 10% of people believe this story, but, I mean...
not everyone has the same brilliant observations you do.
Right? All right.
They asked the Carson people, they're like, if there was a police report, you can just tell people roughly when it was, and they'll look it up. They're like, we're done spending time on this, okay? And we're moving it. Okay, if you say so.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to other news. There were a number of anti-Muslim rallies held throughout the country over the weekend, and one of those rallies took place in Arizona. Now, it's important to note that the majority of these rallies did not have a considerable amount of people turn out. However, the Arizona rally did. In fact, the Phoenix protest attracted more than 120 demonstrators and more than 30 law enforcement officials. Now, the thing that made this rally stand out the most was the fact that the people who attended the protest were heavily armed, okay? So anti-Islam protesters lined up along the street. faced by a smaller set of counter-protesters with the sides separated by two sets of metal crowd control barriers. They frequently yelled at each other. Now, one of the protesters said, "I want them to fuck out of my neighborhood. They can practice Islam in their own country. I don't want it shoved down my throat in my own country."
Okay, let's pause there to note two things. First of all, mission accomplished. They are practicing Islam in their own country. Their country is America. So they're just as American as you are. They're American citizens, 100% American. Sad day for you. So if you don't like that Muslims get to be Americans just as much as anybody else does, well, you don't like our Constitution. That's what our Constitution says. So maybe you should get the fuck out and find a country as bigoted and racist as you are.
There hasn't been one example of Muslim religion being forced upon anyone in the United States. There hasn't been a single example. However, there have been numerous examples of other religion, like Christian religion, being forced down our throats. I mean, think about the assault on reproductive rights. Think about the assault on gay rights. I mean, you want to talk about religion being forced upon people, it's certainly not Muslim religion. And when you want to talk about how violent Muslims are, it's a little ironic to do so when you're showing up to a rally with assault rifles.
Okay, so we're both atheists, so we don't believe in Islam. And if Islam was powerful in this country and was discriminating against gay people, had the power to do that, right? You know what we'd do? We'd fight against it.
Exactly.
Right? But it's a fiction. It's not like they don't do it in other countries. They do it in Saudi Arabia, and we fight against it. They do it in Iran, and we fight against it, right? But in this country, there is no Sharia law being forced upon the Christians. Like, which judge or mayor or governor was like, you must now all follow Muslim law in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Absurd. It's never happened in the country.
You know what?
And what is it about Republicans that they love talking about? They say it almost every time. It's shoved down our throat. Oh my God, the gays shoved their agenda down our throat. The Muslims are also in our throat. Okay, all right.
I know.
Easy, big guy.
It's interesting terminology. But here's the thing. I'm open-minded, right? So maybe I'm ignorant on this issue, and maybe there are very clear examples of Muslims forcing their religion on us, right? Just give me examples. I know there are people watching this video right now, and they're freaking out. They're throwing feces on the wall. They're like, no, Muslims are taking over. Show me. I want to see it.
In America.
In America. Okay. Exactly.
In other countries, obviously they've taken over, and we don't agree with their policies.
Yeah.
We don't agree if you impose Christianity on us. We don't agree if you impose Islam on us. They're just not anywhere remotely powerful enough in this country to be able to do that. The minute they are, and you show us those laws, we're 1,000% on your side. We say, hell no, not on our watch. You don't get to impose any religion on us. We're a secular country.
Exactly. So let me give you some more examples of statements made by these people at the rally. Another person said, we don't want Islam to take over the country, and that's what they want to do. They want to take over the world. And another person said, we're educating people. Take away their 501c tax-exempt status. Let Donald Trump build something beautiful. So you kind of get a sense of what kind of people attend this rally. And again, most of them were armed. Most of them had assault rifles. If you're trying to make an argument about how Muslims are violent and how they're a threat to society, you can't really do that while you show up with your assault rifles.
So that's a serious issue. Now, look, first of all, again, if you want to say, hey, let's take away the 501c exemption of all mosques, churches, temples, you name it, you got a deal. I'll do that deal immediately. I don't think they should have tax-exempt status for any of the religions. Secondly, this is a troubling situation, Anna. I mean, part of it is they're so over the top that it's goofy and laughable. But the other part is then they had a conflict between the two sides. The anti-Islam protesters, a third of them were packing, but there was also people on the other side who were packing. And then some guy a bunch of guys, one in a Confederate flag outfit, bum rushed the peaceful protesters, right? And then cops had to separate them. Both sides have weaponry. This is a recipe for disaster, man. I mean, they're going out there looking for violence. Oh, the Muslims are going to be violent, just like you said.
Yeah.
But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to create the violence.
I know. It's maddening and it's unnecessary. And if you want to do a rally or a protest about the extremism that's being done abroad, I totally agree with you. But these are people in a mosque who haven't caused any trouble, and you're showing up to that mosque with weaponry to intimidate them. I mean, it's just sad, and unfortunately, at this point, we live in a country where a huge chunk of the population thinks that this is warranted.
Yeah, it's madness.
All right. One of the anti-Muslim rallies that happened over the weekend happened in Ohio, and it didn't have a huge turnout. In fact, only one woman showed up, and she was greeted by Muslim counter-protesters who were trying to educate her about the issue. In the end, it actually worked. Take a look at the video.
There's not evil in me. I pray for my Muslim brothers and sisters.
Hold on.
I pray for the murdering to stop. None of us want murder. Listen, none of us want murder. None of us don't. No, that's not true, though. No, it's true. None of us want murder. Maybe you guys don't.
No real Muslim wants murder.
No true Muslim.
No, just like no Christian wants genocide and the Holocaust and slavery.
I heard you. You never Oh no, help! Okay, can I hold your sign for you?
Come on, yes.
Yeah, come and help me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so look, first of all, these anti-Muslim protests throughout the country were ironically labeled Global Rally for Humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact opposite, right? That woman you saw there who was protesting, it was hilarious that she was the only one who showed up, but she was yelling, ranting, and raving about muzzies. Like, that's what she called Muslims, muzzies. And how she said, too many Muslims don't understand the Quran. Then they asked her, have you read it? She's like, no, of course not. So then this Muslim woman comes up, and you saw the interaction. She's like, let me get a hug. Let's hug it out, right?
Oh.
God, I love that woman. Okay, so she says, hey, none of us want the violence. You're protesting the wrong people, right? Now, I don't agree with the one thing that they said. They said, no true Muslim wants violence. It's the no true Scotsman fallacy, right? Yeah, ISIS thinks they're true Muslims. You think a true Muslim would be peaceful. The books are wildly contradictory. I have read the Quran and the Bible. They both say do violence, don't do violence. It depends on the part you're reading, right? So you quote the Bible, the Quran all day long. Like the more dangerous rally in Arizona, the 120 protesters, people had come with verses from the Quran. They're like, do you know how violent that is? You're right. You want me to bring out the Bible? I can show you hundreds of pages filled with unbelievable violence, right? It's not just right. So, but the heartwarming end of this is they took her into the mosque.
I know.
And she went into the mosque, and guess what happens? It's like, oh, they're human beings.
Right. So I actually give everyone in this a tremendous amount of credit, and that includes the protester, because I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of, I don't know, self-awareness to admit that you're probably wrong and to be open to learning more about a culture that you might not know much about, right? So she starts off with the muzzies comments, and then it ends with her going into a mosque, hugging a Muslim woman, and being more open-minded about the culture. And I like that. I give her a lot of credit. And this is in Ohio. Obviously, she's a very right-wing conservative person, and I like the fact that she was open-minded enough to do this.
And credit to the cops, too. Right before she went in the mosque, like, let's just check you for weapons just in case.
Yeah.
It's a good job of doing your job. And she said, it's more likely that I'll spontaneously burst into flames as a Christian enter a mosque. So she didn't mean any harm. She didn't have any weapons. She was kidding around at the end. And to me, I'm with Anna. The best thing I liked about her was that at least she was open-minded enough to do the hug, to go into the mosque and start to learn about people. And what she's going to find out is the same thing other people found out in an earlier story we did. Some of the guys who had come with Islam t-shirts, same guys from the mosque came out, brought them in, and their conclusion was, oh, they pray to God just like we do. Jack say, of course they do.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of hatred comes from ignorance. It doesn't necessarily mean that a person is inherently bad. People are afraid of things that they don't know about or they don't understand, and I think that's what happens with Americans that have this terrible issue with Islamophobia.
Yeah, and so when I'm kidding around and do this, right, I don't do that with guys who are truly evil, and I don't really believe in the concept of evil, but who have done terribly damaging things like Dick Cheney, Don Rumsfeld said. I never do the spittoon, right, because they're not ignorant. They know what they're doing, and they do it anyway, right? The spit thing is for people who they got brainwashed in the wrong way. I'm not giving up on them. I tease them.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, if if they were open-minded enough to have a conversation, I bet we agree on a ton of stuff that they would be shocked by.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right, moving on to something a little more fun. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, signed into law a concealed carry measure that would allow students on university campuses to carry their guns. Well, it turns out that some University of Texas students are not too happy about this, and they staged a protest that they refer to as Cox, not Glocks. Now, the way that they've been protesting this new law is they show up to the campuses carrying massive multicolored dildos. Okay.
For the win.
All right, so let me give you some more details on that. The Cox Not Glocks protests or protesters intend to openly carry brightly covered sex toys on campus in protest. We have a little picture showing you an example of a student with a dildo in her backpack.
The funny thing is, if I looked at that picture and you didn't tell me, I would have just thought that was an umbrella.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I would notice it. Anyway, so one person says, Jessica Jin, who's the leader of this protest, says, yeah, well, I'm carrying a huge dildo, just about as effective as protecting us from sociopathic shooters, but much safer for recreational play. Now, the Facebook page for the group Campus Dildo Carry has since been flooded with abuse, which moderators are leaving in place to show the kind of aggressive hostility open carry zealots display when they find out they're being mocked.
Okay, I love that. Think about it, right? The dildo people are saying, hey, you people carrying guns around, you're dangerous and we're worried about you.
Yeah.
And so, as a joke, they carry dildos around, and the people with the guns say, how dare you say that? I will hunt you down and kill you. I think you might have kind of proven their point. They were worried you were dangerous, and you just said you were dangerous.
Yes.
So, and what are you all upset over? Over a fucking dildo, right?
I know.
So, and these guys should be carrying guns on campus? The guys who lose it because you carried a dildo around?
It's not just guys either. It's guys and girls. I mean, you read some of these comments on the Facebook page by men and women, and it's very scary. So let me give you some examples. One person says, I'm guessing that the organizer of this event is a huge slut. Should be funny to watch. Another person says, I've seen most...
By the way, ironically from Ron Cox. You would have thought he'd be part of Cox, not Glocks.
Oh, yeah. All right, another person says, I've seen most of you trolls tromping around campus. If you took as much time taking care of yourselves as you do trying to make meaningless political statements, continues, you may not need the dildos and could actually have a real living penis waiting for you at home. Classy.
He called them trolls as he was trolling them on Facebook.
I know.
It's a troll within a troll. Dreidel still spit.
Yeah. And then a woman by the name of Becca Lynch wrote, I'm just going to read it verbatim. You dumb cunts post a page like this, then report people for standing up to your pathetic bullshit. You nasty cunts need to be locked up, fucking ew. This kind of shit is exactly why my daughter won't attend one of these slut colleges.
So you're willing to give your daughter a gun and put her life in danger, and you're willing to send, and even if you don't give her a gun, you're willing to send her to a campus filled with guns.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, all right, guns, that's awesome. Honey, go right in. Okay?
It's amazing.
But, oh, you sluts with your dildos. That sounds so dangerous.
By the way, so some of you are probably wondering, as I was wondering, why the hell would they do this protest with dildos instead of something else? Well, they're trying to make a point about how you can't openly carry a sex toy on campus. You'll get some sort of citation for it. But you can conceal carry because of this new law. So you're not allowed to have a harmless sex toy that wouldn't hurt anyone, but you can absolutely have a gun.
Do the dildos fire anything?
I mean, maybe some of them do.
Okay, I don't know about that. Didn't you got any of them double dongers? That would be, I guess, the assault rifle version of this, right? Oh, we got a double donger here. Double barrels, right? Okay, so this is the insane country we live in. If you carry a device to pleasure yourself, you'll be in a lot of trouble. If you carry a device to kill other people, welcome to Texas. Welcome to campus.
Yep. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Raven Simone gets herself into some hot water.
Ah, that's so good. Back in the Young Turks. People were having illegal conversations about baseball during the break, so we had to come back earlier. The Crystal Paco writes in, Jenk made it clear, referring to Ann Coulter. She believes what she says. Use the Sam Harris argument and believe her when she says that. Right? So, by the way, if you want to watch it again, youtube.com/TYT, the debate is up there. Puddinhead writes in, Larry Lessig will be the biggest loser in the Democratic debate because he doesn't have the big money backers to get him on stage. Unfortunately, there might be a lot of truth to that. Larry Lessig will not be in the debate. So he raised $1 million, but from small donors. Before they were like, well, you just got to raise, you got to show that you're a viable candidate and stuff. Then they said, okay, you have to register 1% on the polls, and he did. Then they said, okay, we're not going to include your name in the polls anymore.
What the hell?
You didn't know that?
No.
Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're like, okay, no, we don't want you in the debates talking about money and stuff. We all make money off of that.
Exactly. So the establishment is not in favor of that.
The people who do the polls, by the way, are major media organizations who are the exact beneficiaries of the money in politics. That's where all the ads go to. And they're like, oh, did we leave Larry's name out of the polls again? Sorry. Oh, golly gee, that was just such a big oopsie-doopsie, right? So he's not going to be in the debate. It's maddening. Okay. I can't read the memes, but there's a lot of great memes on here. Check out #TYT Live for you guys. For yourself, Life's Catholic. I enjoyed the cartoon. And Joshua Fisher writes in finally, I know I just had a meatball sub, but all this talk about Popeyes is making me want delicious chicken.
Oh, I love that.
#TYT Live. #Foodie Problem.
Such a good organization.
It really is. Okay. It is among the best organizations in the country. Okay. Members of the day are Tom Pope, member number 2581. And look at this. Raven Blackheart, member 2821. How is that for a coincidence?
Wow.
The next story is about Raven Simone, who has a black heart.
Right. Raven Simone or Raven Simone, based on the accent she has on the last letter of her name.
That is an amazing coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I do want to tell you guys, for the members and for all future members, today's post-game show will be about our experience at Politicon behind the scenes, including my interactions with Ann Coulter behind the scenes. Drums! Okay? So, might be a good time to become a member. TYTnetwork.com/subscribe. Drama after the show. Okay, next.
All right. Recently on The View, Raven Simone made some questionable statements about black-sounding names and whether or not she would discriminate against someone applying for a job with a black-sounding name. Take a look. You know, a new study in the journal Evolution and Human Behavior says Americans make racist assumptions based on people's names. Now, this, of course, made us think about the viral video that listed the 60 most ghetto names. And here are their top 10. My boys.
United States of America equal, Alopecia, King Kong Quisha, Fried Chicken Nisha, Collard Green equal, Greg Drankeisha, African Nisha equal, Kushida, the Tanyana Bovine Austrian equally.
Just to bring it back, can we take back racist and say discriminatory? Because I think that's a better word. Yes, it is a much better word. That's a better word, and I am very discriminatory against words like the ones that they were saying in those names. I'm not about to hire you if your name is Watermelon Andrea. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to hire you. I would be such a beautiful King Kong Quisha.
Okay, so people were not too pleased with what she had to say there. I find her statement so interesting because if she weren't famous and she was out there looking for a job, she might not be discriminated because of her name, but she would certainly be discriminated against for her skin color, the way her hair is. Like, she gets away with a lot, right? Because she's already famous. But think about people who would look exactly like you, not have the same fame as you, and what they'd have to go through if they were looking for a job.
I thought that hairdo's name was Watermelon Deandra, or whatever she said she wouldn't hire, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you walk in there, if you didn't work in media, you walk in and you're looking like that, people might discriminate against you, and by the way, they'd be wrong. Yeah. Okay, now, look, I want to be clear about this, and I think we're going to have an interesting conversation here. I get it, right? So some of the names sound ridiculous. So it's not like we don't get that they sound ridiculous. We're not trying to be PC police or whatever people call it, right? But remember, people didn't pick their names, right? So if you're going to get mad at their parents, okay, like for example, my son's name, some people say is ridiculous. Prometheus Maximus Huber, right? You didn't get mad at him. Poor kid didn't do anything. I picked the name, right? So you want to make sure I don't get a job. Fair enough. But it's not on him, right? So that's why her statement's absurd anyway.
Right, and also keep in mind that people aren't overtly racist in the country, right? And a lot of people who are racist don't realize that they're racist. There are subconscious things happening that make them discriminate against certain people based on stupid things. So if someone is telling you what the evidence is and what the data is, and they say, look, people are subconsciously racist or discriminatory against those because of these names, and you know it, and you're still willing to discriminate against people because of their names, well, then you're just a terrible person, right? And Raven-Symoné has said lots of questionable things in the past about the black community. I don't know what's going through her mind. I don't know if she wants to be the heel of the show or if she's doing this for attention, but this isn't the right way to go about it.
And sometimes there's a little of like, I'm not with them mentality, right? It's funny, the two African Americans on the show that are kind of making fun of the situation are named Raven and Whoopi. So I don't know that they got a leg to stand on in terms of making fun of people's names. But look, the part that actually bothers me the most is not like people like Key and Peele have been doing this forever, making fun of black names, right? That's not out of bounds, right? The part that bothers me is pretending that people discriminate because African Americans have crazy names. No, there's been study after study. We covered a study from many years ago. It's not like it's a new thing. It was like 7 years ago they did the study. They give people black-sounding names, not LaQuisha, but, you know, a Tyrone as opposed to an Austin, right? And the white-sounding names have a 50% chance, 50% higher chance of getting a callback for an interview. 50% is colossal. It's not around the edges. It's not 2%. It's not 5%. They have a significantly higher chance of getting a job, right? And so this is a real issue for black people in this country. And when you turn it into a joke, the joking part's fine as long as then you make it serious and you go, wait a minute, now this is a real issue. But they didn't do that.
No.
You know? They just treat it like, oh, black people, if you're going to name your kids like Quisha, of course you're not going to get a job. And the two black people on the panel are like, yeah, totally.
So Raven's father actually spoke out about this, and he did not take her side, although he did so in the most polite way possible. He says, Raven is a really beautiful, sweethearted human being. I should know her mother and I love her very much and will always support her and have her back, even if sometimes she says some dumb shit.
I thought you said he was polite.
Well, I mean...
Sound that polite.
I mean, he called her a beautiful, kind-hearted, sweet human being. I mean, she said dumb shit, and the father's calling her out on that. There's been much talk today about my daughter's comments on her show, The View. People have been hitting me up all night, questioning me about her remarks. This woman is grown, has her own management team, has her own opinions, right or wrong, and is responsible for her own words and actions. So he's basically saying, get off my dick over this issue, okay? Because people have been really, really hard on him over this. But Raven Simone issued a non-apology. I want to give you guys her side of the story as well. She says, I'd like to begin by saying that I was not attacking a specific race, but repeating a name that was said in a viral video, which has received over 2 million likes. I have been denied many jobs because of my skin color, body size, and age. Each time I was rejected, my self-esteem was negatively affected, so I empathize with those who feel victimized by what I said. As an equal opportunity employer, really? You're an equal opportunity? Who do you employ? But anyway, I have never discriminated against a name, even though I said I would. It's not true. My comment was in poor taste. My lack of empathy toward name discrimination was uncalled for.
Okay, like I think she's very rich. I think she might have her own company.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know much about it, but it's fine. Look, but that's why people call attention to it. Mm-hmm. So she backpedals out of it. I don't know how genuine it is, but it's good enough. Good enough. At least she recognizes, hey, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. Yeah. Right? And there's a little bit of education, so the people that hear the PC police around every corner will flip out and be like, no, this is a terrible name, I hate that, right? But for most people, they go, oh yeah, well that does suck. Yeah, I guess she shouldn't have said that, because a lot of people can't get jobs because of it, and that's much more important than making fun of a funny name.
Exactly, and that's another thing, and you've already said this, but I want to reiterate. It's okay to make fun of people's names. We make fun of people's names all the time. I make fun of my own name, Jake makes fun of his name, it is what it is. But it's one thing to make fun of a name, it's another thing to advocate for discriminating against someone because they have a certain name. And that's what she did when she's like, I wouldn't hire this person.
Although, once I found out your middle name was Misak, I did think about firing.
Yeah, I have an Armenian man's middle name.
That wasn't the issue. No, you didn't know that? Her middle name? Isn't that the funniest middle name?
Because my parents didn't know. They're like, what is middle name? I don't know what middle name is. Should we put Misak's name as her middle name? Okay. Me and my brother have the same middle name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's even weirder.
Misak translates to Mike.
Mike?
My middle name is Mike. Immigrant parents, that's what happens.
My middle name is Kadir, but I was named after my grandfather, whose full name was Abdul Kadir. Okay, if I had that name and the beard from earlier in the show, we'd have had a whole different thing going on. But you know what? I didn't, and what do my critics say anyway? Secret Muslim, right? So you can't win.
Your critics can suck it.
Anyway. Agreed. My critics can me suck it. That's wrong, right? That's wrong.
How dare you? Where's the PC police when you need them?
Oh, don't be such a social justice warrior.
All right, let's talk about some good news out of California. Governor Jerry Brown from California has signed into law a ban on the name Redskins for high school mascots. Now, this will specifically impact grade school, mascots. And according to reports, the law, which Governor Jerry Brown signed Sunday morning, goes into effect on January 1st of 2017. It's believed to affect only 4 public schools using the mascot. However, this is more of a symbolic thing than anything else. They're trying to make a statement about the fact that Redskins is a very offensive name to Native Americans, and it shouldn't be used.
Easy peasy. So anyone who complains about this is, stuck in 1955 and sees, demons around every corner. They're coming to challenge our way of life. Okay, I mean, if you consider your way of life being able to, make fun of other people, call them terrible names, yeah, I guess that's true. We're challenging that way of life, right? Oh, you can't come after our traditions. Well, some traditions suck, right? Including here in the U.S. We had a tradition called slavery. That kind of sucked. Yeah. So we changed it, right? Now, it's a bad name when you can't ever call a person that, right? So Seminole, for example, the Florida State Seminoles, perfectly fine. You can call somebody a Seminole. That's what they are. That's the group they're from. Would you go up to a Native American and be like, hey, Redskin? You wouldn't, right? I mean, I hope not. You're anywhere near a decent human being, right? So if you can't call someone that name, you might want to change it, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, would you go up to anybody and be like, hey, Chinaman, right? Now, you wouldn't.
Oh
That's why we don't have any more Chinaman mascots.
Did we ever have Chinaman mascots?
Probably.
Oh my god.
Okay, who knows? Maybe we still have a couple left, right?
It's tradition.
It's tradition. Tradition, right? And now, on the issue of the Redskins, look, don't get me wrong. I get it. I grew up a football fan, and I'm a huge football fan now, so my initial instinct was, come on, it's the Washington Redskins, so it's the Cowboys and Redskins. They're in FCA East, and they fight each other. I don't know what the Eagles are doing there, but still, right? They're in the Northeast, I get it. Okay, but then I woke up, and I was like, oh, right, Jesus Christ, that's a terrible name. I don't know why I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all we're asking you to do. And that's what California has done here.
Exactly. All right, final story for you guys. This is the last story I have prepped for the hour. I can't believe we got through everything.
Yeah, well, that's how we do, man.
All right. Fairfax, Virginia is having a serious issue with one particular parking enforcement officer who decides to give people tickets for not doing their inspections in time as they're in line waiting to have inspections done on their vehicles. Okay, so this was a report by the Washington Post, and according to the report, one auto body owner was so irritated with Jacqueline Hogue, who is the parking official here, that as she was writing a ticket recently, he grabbed it out of her hand and then exchanged choice words with her. Okay, some profanity took place. Now, Hogue responded by having Bruce Redwine, who's the guy here, arrested for felony assault on a police officer, though she's not even a police officer. Again, she's parking enforcement. Now, this went to court. He served about 4 days in prison, or jail, I should say, as a result of this. But he did appeal this, and the charges were dropped immediately because the judge realized that she's not actually a cop. The charges that he faced were felony assault on a police officer. Again, not a police officer.
Okay, so that's part of the issue. The other part of the issue is what a douchebag move this is by
Jacqueline Hogue.
Right, and all the people who know this and allow it to happen time after time. So these people are bringing their cars in to get the inspection. They're doing the right thing. They're like, oh, okay, I got to get my car inspected and follow the law. And she's sitting there going, I'm going to get you right before you can follow the law. I'm going to write you tickets because it's easy.
No, I hate this shit. I hate this shit. I hate this shit. Okay, here's the thing, all right? There used to be a time where parking officials were a little more reasonable, but now they're just handing out tickets all over the place in unreasonable circumstances. So I'll give you an example that I experienced personally. I didn't get the ticket, but I live in a very densely populated area, and it's around a lot of restaurants and businesses. There was a man in a truck delivering food to a restaurant, and so he parked it very temporarily so he can just deliver the food real quick and leave. The parking enforcement person saw and immediately started writing the ticket. First of all, the car wasn't blocking any traffic. The car wasn't in anyone's way. It was a very quick stop. Boom, got the ticket. Just find something better to do with your life, okay? Find a different career path, because parking enforcement sucks. It's a regressive tax. It's because we don't tax the wealthy their fair share, and states and municipalities need to make up the money in some other way. So they issue these stupid, bogus tickets. It drives me mad.
And part of the reason they do that is because it funds the local, sometimes police officers or different departments. So they want their funding, so they're like, okay, the more tickets I give out, the more goodies I get. The more I get to keep my job, right? So they have all the incentives in the world to write tickets fair or otherwise. So now, my version of that story is a long time ago, I'm in New Jersey, there's a stop sign that you can't see because it's behind a tree, and so I didn't see it, and there was no reason for the stop sign either. So I was just going down the road. As far as I knew, there was hardly, it's hard to describe the intersection there. Anyway, because there's a light right afterwards, I stop at the light, I turn, and the cop comes and gets me, and he goes, you ran that stop sign. I was like, what stop sign? I didn't see a stop sign. And he's like, the one behind that tree over there. I'm like, wait a minute, that's preposterous. Now, why do you have a police trap there? I mean, you're sitting there, you didn't see me driving, right? You were ambushed there to give tickets.
Yeah.
You're sitting there because you know people don't see the sign.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you should put the sign in a place where you can see it instead of just creating it as a fake excuse to give out tickets so you could fund yourself.
Well, that means that he'd have to work a little harder to issue tickets.
Yeah.
Right?
The minute you have an ambush like that, you should realize, oh, there's something wrong here. everybody's not seeing this sign.
Yeah.
Anyway, so instead, of course, he gets all cocky, right? So he's like, you endangered the lives of everybody. We were going 5 miles an hour. There was a stop sign, an actual traffic light right after it, like 3 feet after it, right? We're all coming to a stop anyway, right? You endangered everybody's lives in here. And then he turns, and there's 3 other guys in the car. He turns to them, and he's like, how do you feel about the fact that your friend put your lives in danger like that? And, like, 2 of them burst out laughing. So, like, they didn't mean to. Like, they're scared of the cops. They're like, are you crazy? One of them, Bora, okay, of course, is going to mess with me. And he's like, thank you, officer. I was really worried. And he's like, it's a good thing you stopped him. We were this close.
That's hilarious.
So, cut it out, man. Stop giving these tickets to us. You're killing us with these tickets, right? And if you're poor, this hits you so hard. And by the way, sometimes if you can't pay the tickets, then they're like, oh, it's not a private debt. It's a public debt you owe to the government. They arrest you over it.
Yeah.
It's insanity. Cut it out. Cut it out. Okay. We are out of time, folks. Post-game for the members, where I'll talk about my interactions with Ann Coulter behind the scenes. Drama. Okay, so in order to become a member, tytnetwork.com/subscribe.
Bye-bye.